Avengers Endgame is a superhero film and is directed by the Russo brothers and stars an ensemble cast with too many actors for me to list off. Firstly, this is going to be a spoiler review, so if you have not seen the film, do not watch this video. There are quite a few details which I will be going into. And yeah, without hiding it, Avengers Endgame was a great film. Not only do I think this film is better than Infinity War, but this has got to be the biggest tribute and love letter to the fans who have invested so much time into the MCU. But I've got to be honest, this film is being a little bit overhyped. And with all the reviews I've seen so far, it's been 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5, one of the best superhero films of all time. Like, yeah, it's a good movie, but by no means is it a masterpiece. But I can definitely say I was thoroughly entertained for a majority of this film. Not once did I find myself to be bored, although the film really did not have to be 3 hours. Throughout the film, there are a lot of pointless detours that go nowhere, some stuff that could have been trimmed down or cut out entirely, and dragging in some places in the film. Now, there were a few things that I was a bit iffy about, so I'll get them out of the way first. The directions of some of the characters were pretty much pointless. As it's established early on, Hawkeye loses his entire family, so then he goes down this path of being a Ronin, but then that goes completely nowhere. We only get one scene where he's murdering people, and then when he rejoins the Avengers, he has the same attitude he had in previous Avengers films. Another character I was a bit mixed on was Captain Marvel. Now, let me make it clear, there was nothing wrong with the character. It's just what the filmmakers did with this character. And here's the biggest thing they kind of screwed up with her. She almost does nothing in the film. She probably has less than 20 minutes of screen time. She shows up at the beginning of the film, goes missing, and then comes in near the end. And this wouldn't have been a problem if, you know, they hadn't built her up so much. Like at the end of Infinity War when they showed her logo, and then she had her own feature film where they showed her backstory and her powers. And for a character who's been built up for nearly a year, she contributes next to nothing in Avengers Endgame. The only real contribution she adds is she finds Tony in space. So yeah, they pretty much wasted Captain Marvel. So yeah, while I didn't like the direction of some characters, there were a few that really impressed me. For one thing, I liked Ant-Man. He has never been my favorite, and yet the performance by Paul Rudd and the type of character he is in this film was done superbly. And of course, like usual, Captain America, Iron Man were all great, but like Infinity War, the real MVP of the movie was Thor. Chris Hemsworth was constantly one of the best things about this film, and unlike Infinity War, where I found some of the comedy to be groan-inducing at best, Avengers Endgame I probably laughed at the most. And while there were a few jokes that were a bit there were still a lot that had me cracking up. I also found Endgame to be very unpredictable, unlike Infinity War where it was so obvious the villain was going to win because that film was just part one of a two-part story, so the villain had to win in the first one. But yeah, Endgame shocked the hell out of me at a lot of points. Within the first half hour, the Avengers find Thanos and kill him, and there's still 2.5 hours to go. And while I said the first half of the film is a bit slow going, this is what I most appreciated about this film. Because after they kill Thanos, the film jumps 5 years into the future, and it follows these characters trying to live in a world where half of the population is gone, dead, and how some of them are dealing with it emotionally. Another point I've got to be honest on is this film wasn't really doing much for me to begin with. It took a long time for me to really get into this movie. However, once we get to the scene where Hulk has his own Infinity Gauntlet, that's when things got interesting. And this entire third act was awesome, glorious, and spectacular. If not one of the greatest moments in any of the Marvel films. Every single Marvel superhero that has been introduced to us goes up against Thanos' forces, and this was something truly special. I also liked the scene before everyone teamed up where it was just Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man taking on Thanos. This fight scene was awesome. However, one moment in this scene had me like pumping my fist in the air, and that's when Captain America took Thor's hammer and beat the shit out of Thanos. I also liked the little details they included, whether referencing scenes or moments from previous Marvel films, or one of the most impressive things, bringing back original supporting actors. They pretty much brought back everybody from the Marvel films. They brought back Tilda Swinton, Natalie Portman, Marissa Tomei, Jon Favreau, Michael Douglas, Michelle Pfeiffer. Hell, they even got Robert Redford to come out of retirement just to do the cameo. Finally, before I wrap up, I want to talk about the ending. This was one of the best payoffs in any superhero film. The death of Iron Man was actually an emotional moment for me, because not only was Iron Man the first character to have a film in this universe, but he was also the starting point for an 11-year journey. I also liked the payoff they gave to Captain America, where he goes back in time and spends the rest of his life with Peggy Carter. Overall, while this film is far from a masterpiece, this is still a great movie. For MCU fans who have been following this franchise for a long time, you will most definitely get a rewarding closure here. Pretty much everything was awesome. The acting was great, the action scenes were spectacular, the references to previous Marvel films were a nice touch, and while the film does drag mainly in the first half of the film, and there were some wasted character directions, plus a few other things that hurt my final score, this was definitely a nice final chapter in this 11-year story. And while there are more MCU films planned, for me, I got the ending I wanted from Avengers Endgame, and I'm gonna give Avengers Endgame an 8.5 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see, be sure to like my Facebook page, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to my channel below. As always, I'm NETX5. Thank you for watching.